Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Nathan Thompson with Exemplify Health Center, your Wellness Way affiliate in Yorkville, Illinois. Hope you guys are having a great 4th of July weekend. I'm actually going to be coming on today instead of on Monday, since Monday is the 4th of July. If you're watching right now, hey, make sure that you say hello. Make sure you let me know where you're watching from as well. And I'm going to cover today a really important myth that is out there, and I'm going to make a bold statement, and I'm going to go over on this live video. The biggest reason, I'm going to say the number one reason why a man suffers with low testosterone, and one of the number one things that you can start to do about it. There's a lot of different reasons that can influence testosterone. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be going over some of those other reasons, but I'm going to go over the big one today. So, ladies, if you're watching, grab your man or share this with them. I know that one of the jokes that I always say is how do you know if a man has low testosterone? Their wife will tell me. All right. So many times it's the woman that's talking to me about their man, saying, "Hey, my husband, my significant other, they're sick. They're hormonally sick. What can I do?" Usually, what I say is, well, you can't help them until they're ready to get help. So maybe they can watch this video in private by themselves, or maybe you can just kind of softly encourage them to watch this video. So I know when you watch a lot of commercials, when you watch TV, when you watch advertisements for testosterone supplementation, testosterone boosters, but also, a lot of these male clinics that are popping up, and the reason why they pop up because they're doing hormonal replacement therapy, just as if a lot of the medical profession has hoodwinked women into doing hormonal replacement therapy, many times with devastating consequences. The same is happening with men, because when you look at it, when you see businesses pop up, it means that there's a need for it. We know that that men are very hormonally sick. They just don't have a lot of the symptoms that women do as far as actually feeling sick. So this whole idea, when you watch a lot of these commercials and when you see advertisements, they're always going to say this, is that, excuse me, as a person gets older, as a man gets older, testosterone declines. And I'm going to show you why it is very common for a man's testosterone to decline as they age, but it is actually a symptom of being sick, and it is absolutely not normal. And I'll actually show you some clinical examples. So this whole idea that testosterone is supposed to decline is just a myth. Just because, guys, that it is common doesn't necessarily mean that it's normal. And I'm going to go over this with you today in this live video. Guys, please make sure that you share this video. As always, I'm forever grateful if you guys do that. All right. So let's talk about this whole idea behind men's testosterone. And it doesn't take a lot of work to go and look and see graphs in which they take a man and they measure their testosterone, or they look at the average testosterone of a man as they go through life. And yes, one of the common things is that you will see testosterone in decline as a man gets older. But I'm going to show you the biggest reason why that is. So when you look at someone who's 20 years of age and their average testosterone is almost up to 1,000 on average nanograms per deciliter. And then you see it goes down as a man ages, finally getting to the point, where it can be extremely noticeable at 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age. Guys, there are some signs and symptoms without even measuring it that a man has low testosterone. I don't need to go into all of it, but one of the interesting things is that you'll see if a man's testosterone is declined is actually the loss of body hair. So when they start losing body hair on the legs, on the arms, on the torso, it's an indication that hormonally there's something that is off, and that they need to start figuring out some of the reasons why. So, one perspective says testosterone goes down as you get older. It's a normal process of aging. But the other side of the coin, looking at a different perspective, is I say this: the reason why testosterone goes in decline is because your lifestyle starts to catch up with you. Because when you look at into the 30s, you look at the 40s, 50s, 60 years, I'm going to show you the number one reason why is that as lifestyle catches up, then you're going to see as a reaction, because remember, hormones don't make you sick, they make you feel sick. Hormones respond to stressors, they don't cause the stressors. So what I will always argue is, because here in the United States, we have such a crisis of lifestyle, And this is the reason why men's testosterone is in decline. Now, I will always say is, why is it in decline if you still have the machinery to produce testosterone? Guys, when you look at where testosterone is produced, primarily in a man, testosterone is produced in the testes. Also, is a little bit of adrenal production that takes place. And then, ladies, your testosterone, because women do need testosterone. Yes, you do need a certain level of testosterone. Is during childbearing age, most of it is getting produced within the ovaries, and then also after menopause, it's being primarily produced within the adrenal glands. Okay, this is why you got to be very adrenally healthy, especially ladies after menopause. You have no idea how many women that we see have low testosterone, specifically after menopause, and it has a lot to do with inflammation. It has a lot to do with the adrenal glands. So, what is this lifestyle factor that is so common in men? And it's not only common in men; it's common in women, and it's common here in the United States. Now, let me destroy this whole argument about getting older and having low testosterone. I'm going to give you a clinical example because this actually comes from a man who initially came to me at 73 years of age. So you can see at 73 years of age, his testosterone is at 333, which is, even at 73 years of age, I would consider it as very low in anyone. But then you actually see within a period of about 4 to 5 months, you see the testosterone go up over 600. Now, here is the interesting thing is that he didn't go to a male hormone clinic. He didn't get any exogenous testosterone to rub on his chest or underneath his arms in a way to replace his testosterone. And in fact, he wasn't even taking anything that even herbally to try to stimulate testosterone production, which I'm not opposed to. Yes, we do give it to certain people, but yes, we also make sure that they have cleaned up their lifestyle because that is the number one factor. So here's a guy who at 73 years of age has basically almost doubled his testosterone, who within that time frame has gotten older, but yet his testosterone has improved. And this is why, guys, I always shake my head when people say, oh, you're just getting older. You are just supposed to get worse. You're supposed to be in pain. You're supposed to feel worse. Your energy is supposed to get worse. Your testosterone, your hormones are supposed to go out of whack. That's not the case, and it's hormones responding to poor lifestyle. And the last time I looked, literally 90% of people in the United States could use some serious lifestyle help. I'm going to give you another example on the other side of the coin. We got these tests in about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and this is actually of a 15-year-old boy. So here's a 15-year-old boy who, according to medicine, testosterone should be 900 to 1,000. Here is a boy who has testosterone at 222. So literally, even in regards to a medical test, his testosterone at 15 years of age is actually considered woefully low and inadequate. You could actually tell that this individual was low in testosterone as well, just because of what testosterone does to a person's body. So here's someone who's 15 with low testosterone and someone who is 73 whose testosterone is almost 3 times higher. So there's got to be something that is going on that is influencing testosterone. I'm going to tell you what it is right now. So guys, if you look at this right here, this actually comes from the horse's mouth, and the horse's mouth actually says this. So the Journal of Internal Medicine of 2020, June 1st, so only 2 years ago, they talked about insulin resistance and testosterone levels in young adult males from Indonesia. Okay. So when you look at this, what they're talking about is they're talking about young adult males and their testosterone levels. And what they talked about, they actually talked about insulin and obesity. Okay. Now we think, well, I have gained weight and that's actually causing the low testosterone. But I'm actually going to show you it's what you do and actually cause the weight gain that is causing the low testosterone. So here was their conclusion. There is a negative correlation between testosterone level with insulin resistance, The lower the testosterone level, the higher the insulin resistance in young adult males. So let me say that again. They said the higher the insulin resistance, the lower the testosterone levels. So, what is this whole idea behind insulin resistance? So, guys, if you look at what insulin does, insulin is considered your fat storing hormone, which means if you are consuming way too much sugar, it cannot get into the cells. In fact, your body doesn't want it to get into the cells. And the reason why is that if it took into your cells the amount of sugar that the average person is consuming, it would quickly cause cellular death and oxidative stress that you would actually die sooner than you would die from the effects of insulin resistance leading to type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance is a protective mechanism. It's a protective adaptation of your body because your body is always trying to get you to adapt, survive, and try to live longer. So, how do we develop insulin resistance? Well, because we're exposed to the hormone that's known as insulin. And the reason why insulin is secreted is in order to actually bring our blood sugars back down into the normal range and actually to store energy as a result. Where that energy is stored is in the form of sugar, and insulin actually will help to package those sugars in the form of a triglyceride, which then is stored as fat. So when you look at this and you are saying, hey, look at there's an association between insulin and testosterone, they're 100% correct. So what on earth, guys, do we need to start doing in order to reclaim our testosterone, in order to reclaim the very thing that makes us a man, the very thing that really separates us between male and female? Is we have to be able to get off of sugar and start to lower our insulin response. Now, if you ask people, hey, do you eat a lot of sugar? A lot of people say, no, I'm pretty good. I don't eat a whole heck of a lot of sugar. But they think that they're eating the finely granulated powder. In reality, it's not just sugar, it's everything that turns into sugar, which is actually going to be bread, which is usually people's downfall more than anything else. So don't get me started when it comes to bread because there's so many people who actually have an inflammatory reaction when it comes to bread because of the gluten and because of the baker's yeast. But not only that, it is quickly absorbed, it's quickly turned into sugars. The body has to do something with it because it cannot handle all of that sugar. So where are we getting our sources of sugar? Well, we're getting it in the sources of wheat, in the form of bread, the form of pasta, in the form of white rice and processed rice. And then not only that, but we're also getting the hidden sources of sugar, which contribute every single day so many and so many people. So it's the hidden sources of sugar, but it's not only that. It's also something that's known as high fructose corn syrup. And if you look at where high fructose corn syrup actually is in, it's in nearly everything as a cheap sweetener. So, yes, it's in ketchup. Yes, it's in some of your sweetened drinks. Yes, it's actually in breads as well, even in certain quote unquote wheat breads that you think are healthier for you. But in reality, they turn to sugar just as quickly as a lot of white breads. So it's going to be into breads, into pasta, into rice, and then also into a lot of your packaged foods, which is considered the standard American diet, guys. So here is what is interesting. So number one, we consume these things. So we're consuming these things every single day. And so what happens is when we eat this and they're quickly go across the gastrointestinal barrier and they're actually taken in within the blood vessels going to the liver, then the thing is you have to have an insulin response. Yes, insulin actually is the key that unlocks the sugar to be able to go into the cell to be able to provide for it energy. But the reality is why I show this right up here is because how much sugar your blood can actually handle at one point is about 1 teaspoon, which comes to about 5 grams. So about 5 grams of sugar at once is all that your bloodstream can handle as far as sugar before you need some kind of insulin response in order to be able to shuttle it and start to package it as fat. So the liver is what packages this excess sugar. and it will then take it, and store it in the form of fat to be able to use it as for later use. So where you are using primarily your sugars, and where the insulin is unlocking this within the cell, is within your liver cells, and a lot of it is within your skeletal muscle. Guys, this is one of the reasons why the more skeletal muscle you have, the better it is for you. This is actually why I've seen people who do chronic cardiovascular exercise, like only running, and they lose so much muscle mass because it's an adaptation to doing long, drawn out activity. And they can actually develop some insulin resistance issues just because of lower muscle mass and spiking their cortisol levels for such a long period of time. So, if the liver cannot use that sugar, then it's going to get packaged up as a triglyceride. Guys, one of the ways, without even getting any kind of advanced lab work, is to know if you are having issues with insulin resistance, is go ahead and check your triglyceride levels. And your triglycerides should actually be in the double digits. And I actually think that people's triglycerides levels should be anywhere from about 50 to 70. But if you are seeing that your triglycerides are climbing up into the hundreds, into the 120s, the 150s. In fact, the highest I've ever seen triglycerides is in 1000s, which means they're a heart attack waiting to happen. Then it gets packaged as a fat, and then it is getting deposited into your fat cells for use at a later time. So it's the triglycerides that are getting packaged as fat, and insulin plays a role in it. So the thing that is storing fat is not fat, it's actually the overconsumption of carbohydrates. So here's what happens with sugar and with insulin when it comes to your hormones. Okay. So, number one, when you guys look at this, this is something that just comes out of a physiology textbook, which is always beyond me why a doctor, if they're saying that you have elevated triglycerides, if they see that you are low in testosterone, which is, it's always beyond me why they're always just saying, we're just going to give you this for that, and all of your problems are going to go away. And we know, looking through history, that taking, number one, a cholesterol medication has not solved the problem of heart disease, because since they've introduced statin drugs 30 to 40 years ago, we actually still have more heart disease than ever before. So tell me, doctors, why can't we start being doctors versus just following the standard of care that is leaving people sick? In fact, I actually had a guy that we checked his cholesterol levels, and they were down at 110. And I've actually have heard of doctors saying you can never have your cholesterol get too low, but at 110, cholesterol in this individual was absolutely tanked. And not only that, look at statin drugs and how they can exacerbate insulin resistance. And this person actually had a full-blown case of type 2 diabetes, yet he's about 5'8", 5'9", and probably weighs about 140 pounds. And so is some of the things with type 2 diabetes can be exacerbated, and blood sugar control and insulin resistance can be directly attributed to whether a person is taking a statin drug or not. But when you look at these hormone pathways, guys, this is what is so important, is that number one, the backbone of these sex hormones that is going to include testosterone right here is actually cholesterol. This is why it is beyond me why we think that cholesterol is a negative thing. But think of this, when you are taking a statin drug inhibits an enzyme that produces cholesterol in the liver, which means when you continue to try to lower your cholesterol with some kind of drug, one of the side effects of taking a statin drug is having lowered testosterone. Who says so? They do. So that's the first thing, is I always say when a man is having issues with anything symptom that's related to cholesterol is, are you taking a statin drug? Now, not only that, but when you look at testosterone, is if you have the ability to be able to make it, which means you have the machinery, and you know what machinery that I'm talking about, and then you also have the constituents to be able to produce that specific hormone and to be able to signal the production of that hormone, then you shouldn't have any issues with the production of testosterone. So this is why things like zinc is important. This is why having the proper signaling within the brain is very important. But then you also need the constituents to be able to produce testosterone, which is going to be specific vitamins, specific minerals like zinc, and then also having adequate cholesterol as well. But guys, a lot of the things that you have is maybe not, it might not be all testosterone production. It may be, but most of the men's issues that I've actually found has not been a production issue as much as it's been a conversion issue. So, what can convert it into other hormones, specifically estradiol, guys, and then also DHT? It can go down two different pathways, but both of those pathways are influenced by a bunch of different things. It's influenced by insulin and what causes the elevations of insulin and insulin resistance, the overconsumption of sugar, including high fructose corn syrup. It can also be alcohol. It can also be due to inflammation, and it can also be due to obesity, which is actually a secondary effect of those other ones. So, guys, when you look at obesity, obesity is a sugar issue. Obesity is, can also be an alcohol issue. And one of the reasons why is because the damage that it does to the liver, it can be an inflammatory issue. And there are some other things too that can actually cause some issues with the liver and with inflammation. Some of them can even be viral as well. But what happens is it will cause the conversion of those hormones into DHT and estradiol. Now, if someone is actually DHT dominant, this is a much more potent derivative of testosterone. This will actually accelerate balding. Okay. Estradiol, if you're seeing that you have high estradiol levels, you will actually see on how it signals fat deposition. So in these people, you'll see fat deposition on the breasts, you'll see fat deposition on the back, you'll see fat deposition on the hips, and you won't see as much fat deposition actually on the belly as well. So even these hormones will signal where fat is actually deposited to. So sugar, alcohol, inflammation, and also obesity will start to exacerbate the issue. But then the other thing is, guys, is you have to be able to clear your estrogens through your liver, which means that if you have done damage to your liver, which in the United States is 2/3 of people have some level of liver inflammation that's going on, you're going to see problems with the liver. And again, alcohol, overconsumption of fructose, high fructose corn syrup, trans fatty acid, which is all within the standard American diet. And guys, what happens is you're going to run into an issue of fat deposition. You're going to run into an issue with an inability to be able to clear hormones as well. And guys, what happens is that once you develop insulin resistance, once you start putting on fat, which most men have come to think is normal by the time they're in their 30s, their 40s, definitely in their 50s and in their 60s. But guys, the very fat cell actually will convert your testosterones into estradiol as well. Fat is actually a endocrine hormone that's involved with the production of estradiol. This is why some women, when they become very hormonally deficient, while they'll gain weight in order to try to get their estradiol levels back up. So, and this is also the reason why that men and women should have very different body fat percentages. Who says so? Your physiology says so. So there's a difference between a man having 10 to 15% body fat. There will be a huge difference in how healthy they are hormonally if a man and a woman have 10 to 15% body fat. And this is why women should have a lot higher body fat. And it's also why they should never have a six pack. So what happens is the more that you are causing fat deposition, the more that you're going to be converting your testosterones into estradiol. And so now you don't necessarily have a production issue as much as you have a conversion issue that is taking place. So let me run through this again, guys. Please share this video, especially if you are watching within the Chicagoland area, because I'm going to give you a solution, men, a solution that works, because men are a little bit simpler than women when it comes to their hormones. So if you have high insulin, how do you know if you have high insulin? Well, you measure it. Insulin should be about 3 to 5 at a unit of measurement at about 3 to 5. Number two, you're going to develop over time insulin resistance. You will not hear the insulin anymore, which means you're going to need more and more insulin in order to try to sugar into the cells. And you're going to have more sugar that is actually going to be deposited as fat, which is why you see your triglycerides start to go up. So sugar will not be able to get into the cells. Sugar then will get stored as fat. And then that increased fat is going to convert your testosterone into estradiol. And it is a never ending process, which means you're going to have to do something that is pretty severe in order to get yourself out of that hormonal conversion type pathway. Okay. Now, here is the proof. Everything that we do is backed by research, it is backed by science. And so, a lot of times when they say, well, maybe I'm just going to be eating less, I'm just going to eat less, I'm going to eat just as bad, but I'm just going to eat less of the bad food. You have to completely change everything that you're doing. And I will always stand by this argument is that a calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie. There are hormonal responses to specific calories, and anybody that tells you that it's just about going into a calorie deficit, and if you do that, all of your health problems are going to go away. Please run away from those people because they do not understand the physiology of certain types of foods within the body. So here is the proof right here, guys, that a calorie is not a calorie. This actually came through my email, and it comes from an observation that's actually made from the American Society for Nutrition scientific sessions in their annual meeting. And they said high intake of sugar sweetened beverages increases your liver cancer risk. And this just blows the whole idea when people say, well, you can go ahead and eat whatever you want, just eat a little bit less of it and it won't cause disease. But when they talk about obesity and cancer, when they talk about obesity and heart disease, I always say it's not the obesity, it's what you did to become obese, because there are other people too who actually don't have obesity that eat just as bad, but they tend to actually burn it off a little bit more because they might be a little bit more active. So high intake of sugar sweetened beverages increases liver cancer risk. This is what's so amazing, guys, because what is the sugar sweetened beverage? What is in it? It is actually high fructose corn syrup. So here's what they say. Sugar sweetened beverages may drive insulin resistance and inflammation, which are strongly associated with liver carcinogenesis. So even the idea behind inflammation and insulin resistance, that is linked together. And so is inflammation, insulin resistance, and liver cancer. Okay. Now, they also said there's other reasons that can cause some issues with liver inflammation that is leading to fatty liver, that will lead to issues when it comes to ladies' hormone conversion, fatty acid metabolism. It can also be due to anything that can damage the liver, which includes viral infections, which includes alcohol, which also includes mold toxicity. That's interesting because when we see people who have mold toxicity, you will see their hormones all over the place because it's the liver that is metabolizing these hormones. And then obviously, some of the other things are actually related to insulin resistance, like obesity, like type 2 diabetes, and also cirrhosis, which is the end stage of liver inflammation, in which there is death of your liver cells that is replaced by scarring. So they're actually saying, yeah, if you have a high amount of sugar sweetened beverages, which kids have all the time, which we might drink all the time, is that it's leading to an inflammatory response. And remember, guys, a lot of your cancers are an inflammatory response, and it's an inflammatory adaptation. So there are actually starting to look into this. But guys, these are things that we have been saying now for obviously years. Getting onto this whole other thing too regarding high fructose corn syrup. And this is what's so amazing, guys, is because it's a calorie is not a calorie. And in the journal of in PubMed, within this journal, they actually had said that high fructose corn syrup induces metabolic dysregulation. And so they said high fructose corn syrup induces metabolic disorders likely related to fructose metabolism. Okay. Um, so this is also why in some people, let me explain this. This is also why in people who are insulin resistant, this is why I tell them to not eat fruit. And people lose their minds because they say, well, fruit is good for you. And I said, it's not good for you anymore. And it doesn't mean you have to avoid it for the rest of your life, but you're going to have to avoid it because fructose is not serving you well. And it is actually just driving you deeper into a hole. Now, let me be clear that no one develops a liver, metabolism disorder by eating fruit, but it's by eating all the other sources of high fructose corn syrup in which now fruit will not serve them well. But here's what they say, guys, and this is why we have seen so many liver disorders, and it has to do with fructose. Because when you look at fructose, here's what they say: fructose bypasses the phosphofructokinase regulatory step in glycolysis, which is basically breaking sugar down in order to make energy, unlike glucose, and has a rapid uptake into the liver. Okay. Fructose also has critical effects on lipid metabolism. Here's the thing with fructose is that fructose is one of the number one reasons why so many people have a fatty liver. There's other reasons why as well, but in the United States, when you see this rising so much, and I've had people who have had diagnosed with a fatty liver in their 20s, and it's because of the overconsumption of fructose. And when you look at fructose, fructose actually cannot be used as an energy source and instead must be converted into fat and then has to then get remetabolized and broken down into fat metabolism, which a lot of people they have a lot of problems doing because of that happening within the liver. So guys, I hope where you see where I'm going with this is that one of the reasons why men have so many issues when it comes to their testosterone is because of the overconsumption of fructose, the overconsumption of rapidly available carbohydrates, insulin resistance, leading to problems with conversion, leading to fat deposition, leading to more problems when it comes to converting testosterone into estradiol. And the thing is that you don't have a production problem as much as you are having a conversion problem. Now, let me say this. If you want to go out and you want to run to a clinic that's going to say and do one test marker that says, yep, your testosterone is low, start taking an exogenous testosterone, that will make you feel better in the short term, but it will have devastating consequences if you continue the same lifestyle that got you into that position, because the body is going to continue doing the same things and it's going to figure out a way to outsmart your doctor and to start converting it into things that it is supposed to. Why? Because it's just physiology. So that leads me to this is that you have to start taking control. When they say that a man's testosterone is not only in decline as they age, but if you look at it year over year, looking at the same age men, 30-year-old men in 1960, 30-year-old men in 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and that it is continuing to decline more and more. I will always say this is that our testosterone men is under attack. And so it is up to you to reclaim it, because I will always say this too. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. A man who is high in testosterone is one that accomplishes things, takes care of his family, is extremely focused, is an extremely hard worker, has high energy, and that biologically is actually what we are supposed to be. So there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's just toxic people in general. And it doesn't matter if you're a man, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, is that toxic people are toxic people. And it's time that we stop blaming it on a specific hormone and we start actually producing strong men and strong women by still honoring how they are created biologically. Hopefully, guys, this makes a lot of sense. And again, please share this video as well. And guys, I want you to go to the link. Follow the link if you are in the Chicagoland area, because coming up on July 23rd on a Saturday at 10:30, we're going to go through all of the different things that is wrecking your testosterone. And we're going to show you over 4 weeks, how you start to reclaim that to change the physiology that created it in the first place, and also go with you one-on-one and be able to mentor you so that this isn't something that is some kind of far off, far-fetched idea in which we mentor you to make sure that this happens. And I promise you this, your boss, your significant other, and your kids will thank you for doing it, because you will become a different person when you start to influence this hormone and you start creating health versus shutting your eyes and turning on the TV and turning a blind eye to the problems that you're experiencing with your health. Stop doing that, men, and start manning up and start taking control of your life and of your health. So go to that link, register for it right now. We're about half full with 3 weeks left to go. When it's full, it is full. And then once we fill that up in person, then we will explore the idea of doing an online version for people as well. So guys, I hope you have a great 4th of July weekend. I hope you guys enjoy fireworks. I hope you enjoy your family, and make sure that if you're going to do one thing this weekend, get registered for that event. Be healthy, be well. I hope you guys remember who you are. Have a great weekend.